Hey guys, it's Mr. Huynh with a lesson on the Pythagorean Theorem and its converse. This is a mix of review, mainly with the Pythagorean Theorem, and moving towards using it to prove special cases. Now, the very first part of the lesson, I should say the very first half, is a review, but I wanted to just go ahead and just talk about the formula and how to go ahead and plug whatever information you have properly back into the formula, because not all the problems are going to have the same setup. The Pythagorean theorem is going to go ahead, let me switch out into my pen, boom, right there, is the Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, where your A and your B, right, these are meant to be your legs. And your C is your hypotenuse, right? Now, just remember, your legs are the sides that create the right angle. They create the right angle. And your hypotenuse, right? Your hypotenuse is opposite, the side opposite to the right angle. Now, let's just apply what I just reviewed with you guys to problem number one. Now, for number one, a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared will be used because we're asked to find the missing sides. Make note that your final answer is going to be rounded to the nearest tenth. So that means that we're going to need to do some calculator work. So for number one, I'm going to go ahead and look at the two sides that create my right angle. So I got this side and this side marked down with tick marks. They're not congruent. I'm just using that to reference that those are my legs because those are the two sides that create my right angle. So I have 12 squared plus x squared, and then the side that's opposite to the right angle is my hypotenuse. So that would be 13 squared. Now we're going to go ahead and use some algebra to solve for our missing side. So 12 squared, that's going to be 144 plus the x squared is equal to, and 13 squared is going to be 169. And I'm going to go ahead and subtract the 144 on both sides. So that's going to be x squared is equal to 25. And then the last part, and this is a common mistake, but you need to make sure you remember to do it, is yes, your job is to get x alone. It looks like x is by itself, but there is an exponent attached to the variable. So in order to get rid of that exponent, we need to square root both sides. So let me switch into a different colored pen so you guys can see my work. We're going to go ahead and square root both sides. So that means x is equal to 5. So when you guys are asked to find missing sides, you need to make sure that in the end, you're going to square root whatever variable we're trying to find, and that'll be your final answer. That'll be your final answer. Now, let's try another one. Let's try number 4. So number 4, we're given a couple things so far. We're given one of our legs. Boom, right there. We're missing another leg, but we're given our hypotenuse. So plug it in. So I have 6.3 squared plus my other leg, which is x squared, is equal to 15.4. 15.4 squared. Don't forget the squared. I almost forgot. You're not going to forget. Now, do some calculator work. So 6.3 squared should land you at 39.69 plus x squared is equal to, and 15.4 squared, don't times it by 2. It's 15.4 times 15.4. That's going to go ahead and be 237.16. 237.16. Subtract the 39.69 on both sides. Sorry for my writing. Subtract that right there. So I have x squared is equal to 237.16 minus 39.69. Let me change that. That's a little bit, that should be a 6 right there. Okay. Subtract it, and I have 197.47. Again, don't forget, your goal is to get x alone, and there's a little square that's attached to that x, so we need to go ahead and square root both sides. Change my pen on that one. Square root both sides. So when I square root it and put it into my calculator, that's 197.47 square root it, and I have x is equal to, and since they're asking you to round to the nearest tenth, in your calculator you should get 14.0524, etc. Just one decimal place, so that's going to go ahead and be 14.1. 14.1. All right, cool. So that's how you solve with rounding. Now you're going to be asked to find sides, but you're going to need to keep it in radical form. So this one is a little bit less work, sort of, but let's see how we can go ahead and solve it and keep our answer in radical form. So I have, same thing, a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. Since I'm given my two legs, so that would be 13 squared plus x squared is equal to 15 squared. 13 squared, that's going to go ahead and be 169. And then plus the x squared, and that's going to go ahead and be 15 squared, that'll be 225. You're going to subtract the 169 on both sides. That should net you x squared is equal to 56. And then keep in mind, you're going to be tempted to go ahead and put into your calculator as, you know, radical 56 and shoot out a decimal, but you can't do that. Since they're asking you radical form, right, your answer is going to be x is equal to rad 56. Now, key thing, and this is where you need to bring back your algebra 1 skills, is that you need to have your answer in simplest radical form. Now, rad 56 breaks down to 8 times 7. And then that 7 can't be broken down anymore, but the 8 can be broken down to 2 times 2 times 2 times 7. You could have done 4 times 2, but I went straight to the final breakdown. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, and then you bring down the 7. Now, whoever you have your algebra 1, when you're breaking down the radicals, you had to make sure you circle the pairs. So I have a pair of 2's right here. So when I do that, that's going to look like as 2 rad 14. And so this breaks down to 2 rad 14 as my final answer. I can't circle the 7 and the 2 because they're not a pair. So number 6 is very similar. Keep it in radical form. So let's look at this. 7 and 8, same thing. Find the missing sides. You're not given the triangle. You're given the letters. So they are telling you in the directions that sides A and B are the legs, right? So therefore C must be the hypotenuse. So make sure you're plugging it into carefully. All right, cool. So the next section, totally brand new, is that we are given a triangle. And note that there is no right angle placed in the figure. They're asking us to prove if it is a right triangle. If it is a right triangle. So you're going to use the Pythagorean Theorem again, which was a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. A squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and plug in all 3 sides, right? So we have 1, 2, and 3 sides to plug in. Now, how do we know which one is the hypotenuse? Whatever the largest number is that is going to be assumed to be your hypotenuse. So we're going to plug it in. So my 9 and my 12 are going to go ahead and be my legs in this assumption. So that'll be 9 squared plus 12 squared is equal to 15 squared. Again, you want to make sure the largest number is going to be presented as your C. If this statement is true, where they're equal on both sides, then you know it is a right triangle. So let's see if it's true on both sides. So 9 squared, that's going to be 81, plus the 144 is equal to 15 squared is going to be 225. So we broke down all the numbers. We need to make sure we add these two up together. So 144 plus the 81, that gets me 225. And this side was already 225. Because this is true, therefore, it is a right triangle. As simple as that. So if this is true, that is a right triangle. And you can go ahead and say right triangle, or fill it in, right? Fill that in. All right, let's do one with the radical. And it's exactly the same process. So looking at number 10, looking at problem number 10, you're asked to see if the figure is a right triangle, and you need to prove it mathematically. Now, before you do that, there is this number right over here. And what people will try to go ahead and assume is that they see the 39, but they don't account for the radical, and they think that rad 39 is a big giant number. Just test it out, right? So this is where you should be able to put into your calculator. So for this one, 2 rad 39 placed into your calculator is going to be around 12.49, right? So that means that this is around 12.49. Therefore, the 16 is going to be my assumed hypotenuse because that is the largest number. So let's test it out. So I have 10 squared plus the 2 rad 39 squared is equal to 16 squared. Note that I am putting the whole entire radical, the leg, 2 rad 39 in parentheses, and there's a reason why. So 10 squared gets me 100, and you could do it two ways, but if you have a calculator, you can go ahead and put this into your calculator. If you do it correctly, 2 rad 39, sorry for the pause, I'm actually putting that into the calculator. You should get 156 over here. And then 16 squared is gonna be 256. All right, so far we've managed to break everything down, and now we need to go ahead, combine like terms. So 100 plus 256, that's 256, and then this is 256. Because this is true, because that statement is true both left and the right side, this is a right triangle. So when you're doing your work, you need to show me mathematically using the Pythagorean Theorem if it's a right triangle. You can't just go ahead and play a guessing game. You need to show your work. If it's not a right triangle, I need to see that both the left and the right side aren't right triangles. All right, cool. So 9, 10, 11, 12 are very similar to 13 and 14. You just need to go ahead and use the Pythagorean Theorem to your advantage. All right, scrolling down to our final part of the lesson. So looking at number 15, right? Looking at number 15, it's a state if a triangle is acute, obtuse, or right. So you know if it is a right triangle, right? If it's a right triangle, if it is going to be the factor a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, If, right, if you have a situation for an acute triangle, it is going to be a squared plus b squared is going to be less than c squared. right? So if you're comparing the two legs after squaring them and they happen to be bigger than the hypotenuse, that's going to be an acute triangle. And the last situation is if it's an obtuse triangle. And that happens when a squared plus b squared. Let me go ahead and something's wrong with my pen. Whoop, there you go. Squared is going to go ahead and be less than the hypotenuse squared. So let's try this out. So for number 15, same thing. If you have three sides, just determine which side is the largest, and that's going to be your assumed hypotenuse. So putting it into here, I have a squared, right, plus b squared, and I'm going to keep a box right here, c squared. That box is going to represent either our equal sign or our inequality. So let me add the plus sign right there. So my two smaller sides are going to be my 12 and my 9. So that's going to be my assumed legs. So I got 12 squared plus 9 squared. Put a box right there. And then my hypotenuse is, my assumed hypotenuse, I should say, is 17 squared. All right, I don't know why some of the writing is disappearing, but that's okay. So let's solve it. So 12 squared is going to be 144 plus the 81, and then 17 squared is going to be 289. 289. Now add up the left side, so 144 plus the 81, that's going to net me 225. Put the box right there, and then 289. Now, since 225 is less than 289, we're going to put it the other way. So it is going to be a less than symbol. So therefore, because that is true, this is going to match up with this. So therefore, you can go ahead and state that this is an obtuse triangle. Okay. So make sure you get the notes on the right side, jot it down somewhere. So when you do have homework assignments, instead of watching the video over and over again, you have the information written down somewhere and you can access it really quick. All right, let's try one last one. Look at number 17. Same exact set of directions, but no figure. It says for 17, state if the three sides of the triangle form an acute, obtuse, or right triangle. So we have three numbers. However, we have this sucker that is an issue right now. The reason why it's an issue is we don't know if it's going to be the largest or the smallest side. So let's go ahead and find what 2 rad 55 is. So putting into your calculator, 2 rad 55 nets you 14.83. So this is 14.83. So it's not the assumed hypotenuse because 17 is the largest number when you actually compare the 14.83 by mile. So let's put that in. So I have 6 squared plus 2 rad 55 squared is equals to 17 squared. So putting into your calculator, I have 36 plus 2 parentheses 2 second rad 55 squared is going to be 220 is equal to, and then 17 squared is going to be 289. Add that up. I'm going to move my work over here. So that's going to be 256 is equal, I'll put a box right now, 289. These should be all boxes, I apologize. So these should all be all boxes, 289. And then compare it once again. Since the 256 is less than 289, going back over here, this would represent that the three sides form an obtuse triangle. All right, hope that was helpful. Remember that I have scheduled hours of conferencing where you guys can ask me questions and I can work out problems on Wednesdays and then also on Fridays right before the quiz. So keep a lookout for the messages or reminders on Canvas, and I look forward to seeing you guys. Take care. Bye.